Welcome back to Storyboard Retail Realities on CNBC TV 18. Let me come directly to you, Mr. Yechury. Aren't you saying to maintain status quo, whereas the people in favor of FDI say that even though there are problems with the policy, it will galvanize change? Even if laws have to change at the state level, this policy will make that happen eventually.
You know, the problem with the FDI people is that if they see greater inflow of FDI into the country, they think it's a general goodwill. The feel-good factor will go up, and the shining India will happen. I mean, for that, the generation of these myths. You see that you'll eliminate middlemen. Okay, even if I grant that to Mr. Raghunandan, you eliminate all the middlemen, but you'll be replacing all that middlemen with one person, one buyer. That is the monopsony that I'm talking about. And what Rama was talking about, percentages from 100 rupees and 200 rupees, if a cocoa grower in Ghana gets less than 5% of the final milk product, what would the price of that product be? That 5% will still, unless you're trying to say that the price has gone up by 20 times, in which case the consumer has not benefited at all. It's been the other way around. So all these are contradictory arguments. Eventually, say, I mean, if you want to say you want inflow of foreign capital into the country so that the stock markets can rise, market capitalization will improve, those who want to make the profits will do so.
Yes.
That's a different story.
Yes.
Come out honestly. Don't we build up all these myths.
I have a quick question, but you know, when STD booth owners came and went, when video parlors came and went, I mean, we just let them go, isn't it? And it went on to other things. So what is it about? Because it's 14%?
Farmers not STD booth
but have you found out
farmers
where
are not.
They morphed, they went into doing other things, and some of them went...
What are the other things? What are the other things? Tell me. Has anybody found out? Yes. Why is it that 800 crore people today, according to the Prime Minister's own Anuradha SenGupta report, confirm the fact that they are surviving on less than 20 rupees a day?
Mr. Yechury, so Mr. Sodhi wants to come in for a minute.
You have to take example from the developed countries about the manufacturers. What has happened to the FMCG category? Category has been killed in these countries because there is no innovation, margins have been squeezed, and cheaper substitute have come. If you ask for margin, they'll come out with their private label or they'll go for imports. And biggest loss will be the advertising industry.
That's not the point. No. You please understand the operations of these big chains internationally. You know, let's say the turnover of the Walmart in China is much less in China than the profits they earn from buying in China for exporting to other countries, and particularly to the USA. Walmart is one of the largest exporters of items to the United States of America from China. So it's a sourcing of material where you get it cheaply and where you send it to. So it's a myth to say that the consumer gains, the consumer gets the best of the product. And all this infrastructure development, tell you, what stopped you from doing it? I mean, why is it, I mean, on the one hand, you say dearth of resources, foreign investment will come and therefore they will invest. And am I willing to, or anybody in the world is willing to buy this argument that with the long gestation lags, these companies are going to invest in something like that in infrastructure development? They would expect the government of the day to do it, and it jolly well do it anyway, whether they come or not.
Right. Raghu, you want to just talk about this sourcing from China?
Yeah, I just want to put forth some points to Mr. Yechury. First is, for a minute, let's just move away from food and grocery retail. Let's take a basic category which every child, rich, poor, middle class in India needs, toys. Who is the sole supplier to toys in the world? China. Where do all the toys in India come from? China. Who gets the toys? The middlemen. Okay. Similar case with apparel will not happen because there is a high rate of customs duty. On average, there is a 40% duty. So there are many. Let's take mobiles. You know, we are a 70,000 crore business in mobile hardware alone. Forget the telephone and the 2G and whatever. That business is doubling every 2 years. Where are most of the phones in the world made? China. So my point is, we're not saying FDI is the solution to all of this, but if you have organized modern retail, they will bring in better quality from China or wherever else. They will control the prices and hopefully they'll drive the end prices to consumers down.
Yeah, Mr. Yechury, go ahead quickly.
No, Mr. Raghunandan. Yeah, to Mr. Raghunandan. Yes. Why are you going to the second stage? Why is it that China has become the biggest producers of mobile telephones? When you opened up your telecom sector to 100% FDI, when we were arguing do not do it in terms of providing services, but do it in the hardware thing, the government of India and many of your I mean, they didn't agree at all. That's precisely what China did. Even today, 100% of the services provided in China are public sector, but in your hardware sector, there's 100% FDI. They produce, every single company in the world produces in China. Now, instead of doing something like that, you are now talking in the second stage how to access what is produced in China so that it's cheaply available here.
I'm not talking about China, I'm talking about toys in India. I'm saying that there is no decent toy manufacturer. Toys have been reserved in the small scale for a long time. I don't know that it's any government policy that did or didn't. I mean, we just never ended up having any kind of toys for the fact that we produce 21 million babies a year. So if it isn't happening here and it hasn't happened and there's no particular reason, then can't we just get them in cheaper so our children can at least play with them? I'm not I'm not saying FDI is the answer to everything. I promise you that.
No,
okay.
Do we want FDI for
No, Mr. Sodhi,
you require economies of scale.
Yes.
You require economies of scale. We may be producing the largest number of children, but how many parents can afford toys for these children?
No, in fact, the other way around, how many toys are coming in cheap enough?
No, Rama, Mr. Yechury, Mr. Sodhi, this is going on too long, so I have to wind it up. I'm really sorry, but I think a lot of points have been made. I'm going to leave everybody with one answer, with one question or one last thought. Mr. Sodhi, starting with you. You have made your points, so don't repeat those points. Just give us a sense of how do you see this policy playing out and your final word as to why it should not go through.
Well, I strongly feel that we should have trust in our own people, own capital. Let's not invite East India to India. And then the economy is a very important factor. Here it's a question of billions of Indian traders and other things. Let's not copy others where they have failed.
Okay, Mr. Yechury, a final word, because we know that the 100% in single brand FDI has gone through. We don't hear too many protests on that. So it is the food and grocery and multi-brand category that is where your major protests are, isn't it? What is your final thought?
No, there were protests even in the single brand, but unfortunately, not many people heard it. But the point is, not many people are made to hear it. All FDI is welcome, which will augment India's productive capacities, which will enlarge employment generation in the country, and will upgrade India technologically. FDI in retail is contrary to all these three objectives. And therefore, I think it is completely inadvisable for India to go into this at the moment.
Okay. Raghunandan?
2 points. One, it may well be worthwhile for the government to consider imposing an export obligation on retailers who want to enter India.
Rather than the
sourcing bit, because that sourcing will never work. Second, I just want to take everybody back.
There, I think you and Mr. Yechury may be on the same page and in agreement.
We completely agree. But there are two industries I want to highlight and how they've grown. First is telecom. Till 94, when we had mobiles first in this country, there was a 2, 3, 4 year waiting period to get a telephone. Today, we're the fastest growing mobile business in the world with the lowest tariffs. Second, automobiles. You know, if everybody, opponents to foreign investment had their way, we'd still be driving ambassador cars because they have 4 wheels, they have an engine, they move.
Yeah.
But is that what consumers want? Ultimately, consumers will vote against this.
Okay. Rama, final word to you, and look at it from the perspective of the policy that has come out.
Does it need FDI because there's not enough money? The answer is no, there is enough money. It does need FDI for that reason. Does it need FDI because no one's putting in that money, no one's actually upgrading that infrastructure, nobody's actually taking Amul products, the taste of India, to the small consumer, nobody's actually bringing small toys to low-income children? From the perspective of the fact that nothing is being done, I think FDI in retail is a punt in the direction to say that it could happen. Having said that, as we've repeatedly said, if you actually look at the large numbers, India is too large a country for any one person to sit and swallow overnight. So we've got a lot of time before the invasion captures everything else. So it is, in some senses, much ado about nothing. There are winners, there are losers, and perhaps it's a punt that is worth taking at some time. I agree with Mr. Yechury's point that we have to think about whether this is the right time. But it is what it is.
All right. On that note, Rama, Raghu, lovely to have you on this series. Mr. Yechury, Mr. Sodhi, thank you very much for making the case against FDI in retail. Now, we've provided you a lot of arguments, both for and against. Let us know your feedback. Do write into us. On Twitter, we are at Brand Storyboard. You can find me on at Anuradha Says, and also on our Facebook page. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this series informative and useful. Thank you.